Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of your hosts. I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. My co-hosts today are Mike Mattern, a firefighter, paramedic, EMS instructor, and peer support team leader, and Scott Taylor, a retired police officer and the lead peer with the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. In this episode, we continue examining how Michigan identified gaps in mental and behavioral health support for first responders, and how those gaps led to the development of a coordinated statewide system now known as the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. For many years, critical incidents across frontline professions were often followed by limited or inconsistent structured support. Responders were expected to continue working while managing the effects of trauma largely on their own. And mental and behavioral health resources varied widely across departments, agencies, and regions. As leaders across law enforcement, fire, EMS, corrections, and 911 dispatch began comparing experiences, it became clear that these challenges were not isolated to any one discipline or organization. While each group encountered the problem through its own lens, the underlying issues were strikingly similar. That shared recognition prompted leadership from the Police Officers Association of Michigan, the Michigan Fraternal Order of Police, and the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union to ask whether existing approaches were sufficient and whether a broader, coordinated solution was needed. As those conversations continued, Michigan lawmakers also recognized the growing mental and behavioral health needs of first responders and the importance of addressing them at a statewide level. This recognition supported the use of state funding and marked a shift from organizations and lawmakers working independently to working collaboratively. With that support in place, the Frontline Strong Together 5 program began to take shape as a coordinated statewide program to better support first responders and their immediate family members. This episode takes a look at the FST5 program through the perspective of the Police Officers Association of Michigan, focusing on how trust, culture, and design affect whether first responders actually use available support. Joining the conversation is James Tignanelli, president of POAM. James brings decades of experience representing law enforcement agencies across the state and working directly with frontline personnel. The POAM represents more than 12,000 law enforcement professionals from over 300 police and sheriff departments across the state of Michigan. The POAM plays a significant role in labor relations, legal support, legislative advocacy, and officer wellness. During the conversation, James discusses how the POAM, working along other statewide partners, recognized the need for a coordinated support system and helped lay the groundwork for the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. Jim also explains why effective mental and behavioral health support must go beyond critical incidents to address daily stress, family impact, physical health, sleep, and long-term wellness. This is the second episode in our Building FST5 series. If you missed episode 74 with Mike Sauger from the Fraternal Order of Police, it's worth checking out. And we'll be wrapping up the series soon with a conversation with the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union. Minds on the Frontline is presented by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 offers 24/7 mental health and crisis support for Michigan's first responders and their families. If you or someone else you know needs help, call 1-833-34-STRONG or visit fst5.org to learn more and explore our free training options for Michigan's frontline agencies. Wayne State University administers FST5 with grant funding from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Together, we're dedicated to strengthening the health, resilience, and well-being of Michigan's frontline community. Please follow us on social media and enjoy the show. Jim, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Why don't you kick us off? Tell everybody who you are, what you do, all of your experiences leading up to your current job.
How long is this show? Jesus.
We can edit it.
Yeah,
I'm Jim Tignanelli. I'm the president of the Police Officers Association of Michigan. I have been since 1994. I should just say a long time instead of that because that'll turn some people off. But, I was a public safety officer, police and fire, which is, a scab to some of the firemen that are listening. But we went to the fire academy. We ran the ambulance. I was in the city of Fraser, and that was part of our duties. And went to EMT school while we were still a basic life support. And then ultimately they went advanced life support. But during that period of time, I got elected to the POAM board because I was interested in our local union, and that was something that we were a part of. And then within a few years, I became president. And then a few years after that, as the business grew, they decided rather than trying to elect the leader every 2 years, why don't you quit your job and come here full time? And that's what I've been doing ever since. So that's legislative stuff. I'm in D.C. 4 or 5 times a year, Lansing a lot. We administer over 560 groups statewide, 15,000 law enforcement people. And I'm still servicing groups, too, because I really think I would lose touch with what our guys are doing if I didn't experience it myself some. So I still do that.
You know, sometimes people in Michigan, they hear these two different terms. There's the POAM stickers you see on the back of cars, and then you see the FOP stickers, right? So Mike Sauger we had in here recently, who's kind of your counterpart in the law enforcement world, right? And you guys are on the same side of the aisle on things. You represent the same type of people, and in many respects, you guys were integral in getting stuff like this together. But give everybody some context that aren't in law enforcement to better understand what your two groups do.
The FOP, there's a fraternal and then there's a labor council end of it, and they do different things, but they're associated. They have the same sticker, the same things like that. I don't understand all the politics of it, but I know they do, and we do that too. We have the social side of it. We don't have lodges. We don't have things like that, but we do collective bargaining. We discipline, disciplinary things. We have 4 full-time attorneys in the building. We have an extended legal plan, which is very busy, which is any crime you commit on or off duty, we represent you too. So
is POAM like a representation of labor specifically for law enforcement? That's your primary focus. Is the representation of Michigan law enforcement for those law enforcement agencies that select you for their representation.
Right.
Fantastic. I would say that wages, hours, and working conditions is the foundation of any union of what they represent, right?
Well, those are the mandatory subjects. So
Correct.
Right.
But a part of that is mental wellness, health care, all those things kind of interconnect.
It has to. It really has to.
And kind of going along those lines, with your experience, not only for how long you've been doing it, but the fact that you kind of dipped into police, fire, EMS, and you've got a pretty good perspective of all the different areas. What would you say are some of the main issues that contribute to kind of poor wellness or poor mental health for first responders?
Well, because I go across a couple generations, I'll say in a nutshell, a lot of it's just bad habits. But it's become way bigger than that now because of media, because of the way that we're viewed, police and fire. I mean, really, we make mistakes. I remind legislators all the time, we hire human beings. Our dogs soil the carpet. Our kids leave their lunchbox on the school bus. We're late for soccer practice because of mandatory overtime. So those types of things, as they become more known, you share it more. And when you share it more, people become more aware of it. So I think that's part of the wellness thing is the way we're viewed and the way we're treated by maybe our own bosses. And maybe we just know about it more because of the media coverage. Maybe sometimes we're affected by it vicariously. I mean, we read about what happened to you and we go, well, that happened to me too. So we get a bad mood. Wish it was not true, but it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of like that constant onslaught of it. Whereas before, 20 years ago, the social media wasn't around. 247, just the main news areas.
We only heard about it from each other.
Exactly. Exactly. But now, there's been times where we've been on scene, and by the time we get back to the station, it's already on social media. It's already on
with pictures.
With pictures and videos, and our phones are blowing up. And it's hard to get away from it, even after the fact, because then you got the news cycles and And
then your kids and your spouses and your parents hear about it because they saw it on the news or they read it on Facebook. I mean, it used to be if I didn't say anything, nobody heard, but now everybody hears whether I do or not.
Well, the tough part is when they're asking you about it and you can't really talk about it. What you saw and did because of privacy and all this other stuff. So it's kind of tough there as well.
And it's not just that, like you said, you'll get back right from a run and you get a phone call. Hey, what happened in Westland yesterday? I work in Utica. I have no idea what happened in Westland. I don't know.
That's what my mom does all the time.
All the time, yep.
Well, you know what's different is that nowadays, and again, I don't want to sound like somebody's dad, but you know how they always say the older you get, the smarter your dad was.
Amen.
Part of the thing that we have now is these guys photographing things themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is nothing we run into more than you taking a picture. Now, if it's because you're going to do a report later and download it, but that's not it. You want to show your girlfriend what you saw, your brother what you saw, whatever it is. And so some of this is perpetuated by us, I guess is my point.
Yeah, bad decisions are bad decisions.
Yeah, right.
Just because you hold a specific job doesn't mean you're not going to do bonehead things.
We hire human beings.
Right.
And
Yeah.
can't help it.
Yeah.
Right. There's people who are like, I can't believe he just did that. And there's other people like, hey, did you get that picture? And it is very tempting when you see quote unquote cool stuff that you want to tell people about. Very much so. But then there becomes a privacy thing.
Yes.
Right.
But I think the most important thing you said that you talked to the legislature about is the fact that you're dealing with human beings. When we go to work, our outside life doesn't end. Everything that affects us outside then affects your job. And I'm glad that you're making that aware for people up in Lansing and the people that really do things, is that we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to go to work one day on a bad day, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And nobody's perfect. We're never going to be perfect. But I think there does have to be that idea that we are human. We are going to make mistakes. We could have a bad day at home, and that now perpetuates a bad day at work.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference is we're held to that higher standard.
Yes.
Where if you're working on the line at GM and you do something stupid, because GM hires stupid people too. I mean, we all do. Every department does. It is what it is.
Every business.
Yes, every business. But we have that higher standard clause.
And
Yes.
you know what? We want that higher standard.
Absolutely.
We want
Yes.
it. We desire it. We want to live up to it. And we want to be scrutinized for it. And sometimes he and I, in our previous jobs, would try to take you aside and say, here's why you can't do it. Just you're not trying to beat somebody up. Just say, like I said, how smart was your dad? One time he said, you don't do that anymore. And you've said, he's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a really good segue into my next question. How do the wellness challenges that we just really discussed influence POAM's decision to really get involved and create a statewide program like FST5?
Well, it was probably the most influential thing that we could do, because it's something that we had thought there was a need for, but never would have envisioned how to do it or to do it as comprehensively as the Frontline Strong thing brought to us. Once we heard about the idea, and we all became part of like a steering committee. As I said, we didn't even know the name of it. Nobody had the name of it. It was all brand new. And when we started doing that, we started realizing, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity here that can really grow. But how do you make it grow? But it was very important to us. I think we already recognized the need. We just didn't think about it enough because we didn't have an idea how to fix it.
And there's really no blueprint.
No, there was no.
This is the first one in the whole country that's a statewide program.
Right.
You get this opportunity, and everybody's like, yeah, we need it. And then you're like, so what's that look like?
And, we've actually brought the program before. We have call it mid-states deal with Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin. And we had it brought there, too, because we thought a lot of the legwork that's still being done for Frontline Strong could be shared.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Like when you get a successful grant and you send it off and, like, oh, hey, let me borrow that. That language work.
Because their guys are just like us.
Yeah,
They are.
first responders are famous for, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just put our spin on it. Thanks for doing all the work for me. I'm going to put my name in now. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to need that other one from you. That's how we do it.
Exactly.
We share ideas, share everything.
Yeah,
now, take us inside those like early discussions, right? What were some of the things that POAM contributed to it? And when you went into it, what were those priorities that you saw for the program?
That's a great question, and I remember it well because we were surrounded by really bright people, doctors, some lawyers, some counselors. I really don't even know what all. But then there was firemen. We had a couple firefighters, a couple police officers. What I thought we needed to do on our side, and because I would listen to them because they were so much smarter about mental health than I was. But one of the things that I would hear all the time is how they wanted to cure it, and I would say, wait, that's not going to work. We need his phone number. We need his email address. And we'd sit there and I'd say, well, he's never going to call you again. He won't talk to you no matter how bad he needs it because he doesn't trust you. And it doesn't mean he can't learn to, but it just means if you're going to start out that way, he's going to say, well, this is a bunch of crap, man. We ain't going to do this. And that was, I think sometimes I would listen to them and I'd hear these great ideas and then it would end up with, here's what we should do. And I'd say, Jim, that's not going to work.
How many times did you and I go out to the hallway going, what are they talking about? We got to stop this because they didn't get it. We do it all the time.
We would text each other.
Yeah, we were like 16-year-olds sitting next to each other going,
we're 20 miles apart and we're texting each other like, did you hear that? We got to stop this,
Yeah.
I think everybody listening could empathize with being on a Zoom call being like, what did that dude just say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And it was, but their intentions were so good.
Right.
But it was
Absolutely.
like, come on.
But I
Let me
think
tell you how
that
this
shows
will affect-
another gap in the healthcare continuum for this is that the clinicians, there's such a opportunity, I'm going to call it, not a gap, for a whole entire new segment of psychology and application of clinical services to the type of brain of first responder. And I'm sure it extends beyond just first responders. There's a lot of other occupations that kind of get that similar hit. So I think this is their way of saying almost experimentally, this is what we want to do. And then the beta guys are like, no.
It wasn't one of those, let's talk about this. It was, no.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You just can't do that. But you're right, Jeff. What happened here over this long period of time is the questions that we start getting now about information, they are getting much more informed about what first responders do. And it's not just because of our initial talks, but it's because that initial talk caused them to look deeper. And they are much better now. I mean, they were always good, but they do understand that we are different.
Well, and I think some of the responsibility to the run of the day-to-day has been delegated to peers, to first responders, and that communication between the smart people and us is starting to get a little better. You know what I mean? Yeah. There was one point I was going to actually buy him an air horn, so every time they said something, we just
two old guys texting. You know how serious that was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
Yeah. Then we go out and we go, oh man, we got to stop something here.
But I think that is an important part of this is, they're coming from it from their world. We're coming from it from a whole different world and a whole different perspective. And I think that's where it works better when we can understand each other, where they can kind of.
The good news was they listened.
Yes. And that's the thing.
We tried to, and they tried to. I mean, it was never a battle. It was always a cooperative deal.
And I think that's the great thing of an academic institution kind of being the hub of this. The group that we're testing says, no, don't do that. We should probably change this and learn from that.
And, you mentioned FOP and POAM and the firefighters unions and stuff like that earlier. The one thing that I will say, we never competed for anything in this place. This whole thing, firefighters, FOP, POAM, whoever was there, was like, we all got the same goal. To me, that was something worth mentioning because you wouldn't always hear that.
And that's why it's really a statewide partnership.
It really is.
That's the first time in a long time that the big three have been on the same page on something. 100%.
That's true.
And keep in mind, too, this just because we keep talking about unions, there's over 25,000 first responders that don't have union representation, private transport. This program's just as much for them as it is for union people. This is for first responders in its entirety of the state of Michigan.
And as firefighters, which I'm not, but as firefighters, I think that part of the responsibility, I know how they view paid-on-call guys sometimes and volunteers, but some of those are firefighters other places, that serve in those roles. I mean, but we can't ignore those guys because some of them see the same things, maybe not as frequently, but
they still see it.
They still see it, and I think that's the biggest thing that I hope people understand about the program is, yes, I mean, the unions are the ones who got this done, right? They're the ones who got the program. But the unions are not doing this just for union people. They did it for every single first responder. It doesn't matter if you're volunteer, paid on call, reserve. It does not matter. This program is for you.
Kids.
And their families and their kids. Understand that it is literally for everybody.
If that doesn't tell the legislators we need this, when those three groups get together and hold hands, walk and be like, y'all need to fix this.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. If they're that serious walking in together, and that's a big, big statement. And that got this thing off the ground. And it's been a couple of years since then. And as you've noticed, there's a lot of work that's gone into this. And a lot of great things have been built up. And a good foundation is now there. And luckily, over the last 6 months, we've made a huge amount of headway, and there's a lot more education, resources, and access to clinical services coming. This is hopefully going to be a very long-term project. So in that consideration, what does the POAM believe that Michigan needs to support, strengthen, and sustain first responders' mental and behavioral health on the long term?
I think some of those barriers have been moved forward a little bit, but I think that we have to continue to remind them of the human being thing, like you mentioned earlier, Mike. I mean, to me, the legislators are part-timers now. They're on term limits and stuff. You don't have a guy that's there to carry the sword for you for 10 years like we used to. And sometimes they were carrying the wrong sword. But I mean, nowadays, it's a continual process of telling them what we're doing and why it's important. Sometimes, I'll tell a guy, if you're having trouble with your kid, this is an FST5 thing. This isn't something you went and told EAP about, in your local city or township. But you go to FST5 because your kid's got a substance problem. You go to FST5 not because of the problem. Your problem is, what do I do? And that's so much bigger. And I'm not sure the legislators, I don't want them to ever think that this is just for critical incidents.
No.
Because I think that's how you would view it, because why wouldn't you? This is so much bigger than that. I mean, this is about a guy that's got money troubles. I mean, his spouse lost his or her job. I mean, you lose a family member. It's so much bigger than that critical incident, that shooting or that dead body or whatever, the frozen baby that you find in a ditch somewhere.
And it's your family, and that's the thing, is once it affects your family, it affects the first responder, right? So, I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've gotten a call, And they said, we're looking for a pediatric psychologist for my kid because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, oh, wow, you got a lot going on. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
So that's why I hope people do realize it is for the family and the kids.
Well, if you have a child that has a substance abuse problem, the example you gave, guess what? Now you have a problem. It's your problem too because this is your child. So you're right.
You might even worry about how it affects you with your bosses.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Say your kid gets pulled over someplace. I mean, not because he thinks you're on it, but now all of a sudden, why didn't you say something, do something?
Right.
You can vicariously be responsible for something that you had no knowledge of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing, like just talking here, I mean, you've talked about how the POAM has been huge with this. Talk about not only with Frontline Strong, but some of the current things that you're working on, some wellness initiatives or projects that you're kind of focusing on when it comes to mental and behavioral health.
I'm really proud of this, and I know it's not a POAM thing, but it's something that I felt like we maybe initiated, maybe made some people aware of. But we started with a FIT program. It's FIT. I don't know what it stands for.
That's
It just says FIT. I mean, it was my idea. We'll call it FIT. And everybody, it's because it's 3 capitals.
So they backfilled the acronym for you.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't even want to know some of those. What we started to do was offer guys a voluntary deal to go to a doctor, get approval to go, and then have a FIT program. We use that on MCOLS, which is our certification, our licensing process. And they have a gender and age number of push-ups, running, stuff like that. And so we would do it like that. We'd make it voluntary. And the whole idea was to encourage people to just go to the doctor because so many people have sugar problems now. Yeah. They have blood pressure problems now. But we look like big, healthy guys. We play handball. We play softball. Some of them aren't that healthy. We had an officer not far from here that died in his police car in the parking lot of a heart attack. Yep. This was a guy that was in charge of the tactical team. This was a former Marine. This is a fit guy. And he died. And it turned out he had something that could have been fixed, we think. I'm not here to be a doctor. But, I mean, it looks like it might have been avoidable. I don't know for sure. So we put this FIT thing together, and it made it voluntary. And if you go, even if you don't pass the lowest standard, you get some comp time for coming. And then we know you've gone to the doctor, and maybe the doctor said, you got to cut back on this or that. We don't know. We don't need to know. Then if you go to the lowest thing, we have like platinum, gold, and silver, or whatever the letters are, and the higher that you do on the standard, the more comp time you get off. And even if you fail, if you come back a second time that year, you can still get more time because really we're trying to get the guy that doesn't want to embarrass himself to show up and realize you're not embarrassing yourself.
You're not trying to reach the fittest people.
No.
You're trying to reach that
80%
in the middle that might show up.
But I don't want you to see that I can't do it, so I'm not coming.
Right.
Yeah. So we say, no, we want you to come. Yeah. And it's become, I've gotten about 10 contracts now. And now this most recent thing that we're working through through Frontline Strong is a program where you will get a Zoom trainer. And we have a guy, he's actually does the Saginaw Spirit. He's a wonderful young man, comes from a law enforcement family. And he's going to, meet you for 45 minutes on a thing, and he's going to give you a program. And you'll have yours. You're not with all of us. You could do it as a group. But he's going to do it as individuals so that you can have a way of getting better without telling me.
Maybe ask some questions because a lot of what stops people from getting fit is just answering some basic, I don't know what to do.
And he's that guy that it's more than being able to do pull-ups. You got to be able to eat right too. You got to be able to get sleep.
What does eating right look like? What does sleep look like?
We find out that, guys, when you're not feeling good, you don't sleep good. And when you don't sleep good, you come in a different mood. But, these are all things that I have to tell you. I probably was guilty of all my life, but never really realized.
You're human. We all have been.
And I think that awareness, but that's something that we started here about 6 months ago, and it's really getting taken off. And it's like $15 a month for this guy if you want him in person. Otherwise, he'll write you a thing for free. And it's all done on Zoom. And you can do it as a group of guys one person.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And I hope we get more practitioners in that, too. There's another huge gap for nutritionists, physical fitness, all the things, somatic breathing experts, all of them.
This is one of those guys.
Mental health. A mental health checkup every year. You know what I mean?
If you don't sleep good and you don't feel good, your mental health isn't that good. It was like one of these epiphanies where you're saying, if you don't feel good, how good a mood can you be in? And if you're not in a good mood, how good a job can you do?
And now you're on camera pulling somebody over and you say something snarky and now you're getting called into your captain's office.
Yep.
Scott, you sound like you know what we're talking about.
No comment.
This never happened.
He doesn't rep him here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Talk to me later. But I think that's something that we're part of right now. A couple of things that I think is going to have a long-term effect, and it's catching on quicker than I even hope. It's on our website, and it'll be it's on Frontline Strong too.
Yeah, what a good, and also, I think these townships and cities probably look at it like, hold on, if you're making these people more healthy, my healthcare costs decrease. So, like, it is a cost savings in the end to give somebody more time off, even if it causes overtime.
That's a good point. That's how you sell it to the employer.
That's where my brain went. Is
right.
that, where's the carrot, where's the stick?
Why do I have to give you 8 hours of comp time because you can run a mile in 12 minutes?
And let me show you the data that supports that you're going to pay less over the next 10 years. And you're going to have a better enforcement. You're going to have a better recruiting tool. There's a lot there to make your department and your township, city better when you address these things.
Yeah.
So, Jim, as we close out here, if you could share one message with Michigan's frontline responders about taking care of themselves, what would you want them to hear?
That your physical health and your mental health are entwined immeasurably, and I think that maybe most of us don't realize that. And I think that for Frontline Strong and what we have done here, I say all of us, as you're doing even today, the awareness of it is the most important thing, and the fact that we can convince people, and we have to do this, to make them trust it. Because if they don't trust it, they won't use it no matter how valuable it is or how much they think they need it. If they think that somebody's going to find out and they don't want them to, they won't come. They won't talk. So becoming aware of your fitness and becoming aware that this can be trusted, I think that's the most important message for me right now.
Well put.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out today, Jim.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Love
Thank you so
having
much
you.
for asking me. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Thank you for listening to the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. And make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and have a great day.